And this was when you're using videos and images that do reinforce stereotypes. Again, can you find anything that's perfect? What do you do? I remember watching a Batman movie, and this was at least a decade ago. And I was sitting with my wife, and I was like, okay, this is the most racist, sexist, classist, and disability oppression. I think there was anti-Semitism in it too. And then I said, jokingly, but there hasn't been any homophobia yet. And then literally the next second, there was a homophobic quote joke. So I might use a video to say, in this 2-minute piece, note how many microaggressions and negative comments there are, and how many different categories of difference are experiencing microaggressions in this media piece movie that made this many millions of dollars its first year. So I might do something intentionally like that to have people get a critical eye to notice microaggressions, images, notice, so who was in leadership roles, who wasn't, how are the people that were, quote, evil portrayed. You could put together a montage of just clips from different pieces. So you're training people to have a critical eye, breadth of differences. At the same time, ask, was there anything useful that was not stereotypic? Was there any images that challenged? I mean, you can look at Wonder Woman, and I think there's an Avenger movie that had a woman as the main character. I haven't seen that one. But first glance, all of them are still in these scant outfits. So it's perpetuating this misogynist, sexualizing imagery. So having people find what's useful about and what also is still troublesome. I haven't ever found clips that everything I like about it. And so, for instance, I used the Dr. Joy DeGruy clip on Go in the Grocery Store, and you can find that online. There's a captioned one, so be sure to use that one. It's wonderful. And afterwards, after we debrief it, I might say, so what did you notice about this? And if you were using this, who might not see themselves in this story? And because it's only black and white, her sister-in-law is multiracial, biracial, which is very unusual, in my opinion, to find a key protagonist. So I love that about it. So I just would ask, would you have anything different to add to this conversation and the debrief for folks who are Indigenous, Asian American, Pacific Islander, Latinx, Arab, Middle Eastern? And so how do we have the full breadth of differences? Similarly, the one I like is the John Quinones of Sealing the Bike, black presenting young male, white presenting young male, and then a blonde woman who fits all the stereotypes of what beauty is in a U.S. white culture. And so using it and then ask who would see themselves, who wouldn't, and if you were creating your own video like this, how might you broaden the imagery so that we go beyond a black-white binary? So I might do those conversations with folks, especially if I'm training trainers and having them really try to think about what they want to use, but really do that with folks even live. Now, the person that wrote in this question was saying, in my workshops that you've seen, or you'll see soon, the foundational work, and then Malia just put in the Dr. Joy DeGruy link. I'm assuming that's the one that's captioned. It's really, really good. I use it. I don't use it all the time because people keep shortening what a day looks like. But if you're moving to how do you take action? So after microaggressions, doing this, people are just like so ready. And then I put in pairs and engaging skills and have them do role plays. So it just depends how you want to use your time with folks, but it's a wonderful piece. Her work on traumatic slave syndrome is really great. She's got a number of clips on YouTube, which might be for folks that are more advanced or for folks to use in racial affinity spaces. Post-traumatic slave syndrome. Thank you so much. I haven't had my caffeine today. So you might remember the meme where it shows, the one I use, I think, has 3 folks of different heights. I've always assumed the shortest person is younger, but some of the critique has been that that person actually could be a short person. And so memes of what is the difference between equal and equity, and they use the word liberation, inclusion, depending on what version you see. And the final version, well, first of all, has them standing in the back watching from way left field, and it's behind a fence, and then I think has one box each, and then it shares the resources, so the person who's shortest has the resources they need to all be able to see over the fence. So that's equity. And then removing the fence is more social justice or inclusion. And then finally somebody said, but they're still not playing, so they put them in uniforms, but they're still all standing in left field. Only 2 of them, I think, have gloves. The shortest person doesn't have a glove, if I remember right. So there's just all kinds of opportunities for people to get the concept of how do you move from equal, everybody gets the same, to equitable. People get resources to meet their needs for success, to then going from being on the outside to at the table, which is you're in uniform, but then how do you really create social justice where people's voices are heard, considered, they're a part of decision making, and actually be playing on the field. So I actually still love that meme because it really gives a chance for people to critique what other meme would really be much more social justice, and what is your organization, which meme reflects your organization. There have also been some folks that have written critiques on that, so I would read those online. And then I've heard there's one around bicycles that's an alternative. I've asked someone to make me that, or actually maybe to make me one. There's one with a slope that you can see online, but I haven't had anyone make that and then know who to give credit to so that I can use it. So that's why I still use the baseball and then critique it and just get them involved. The bicycle one, to my knowledge, is if you have a bike that's 2 wheels and someone sit on it and pedal and hold their handles, who could not use that? Who is that not? And so what other kinds of bikes are there? And have people either brainstorm, or you could collect up a bunch of images to show folks that we need to change our policies, practices, our workstations so that they're accessible. That could work too. And then have people come up with new kinds of bikes we've never maybe envisioned. I don't know. So the challenge would be, as you're doing your own videos, images, the tools you're picking out to try to, get different learning styles, so it's not just speaking like I'm doing right now, really have a full inclusion lens, use the group identity cards, get a group of people together to say, maybe give everybody 2 or 3 group identity cards and say, by group membership, folks in a marginalized group, would they see themselves in this? Does this represent some stereotypes? What are we missing? You can actually do that. Get 3 or 4 images you're thinking of using, do it in a workshop and say, these are just some images that are out there, let's critique them. And then you can hear what people say, decide if you want to use them, and then bring in their own materials from the organization. And then the question, when do you realize media is no longer useful? When enough people give me feedback and they're in the marginalized identity that it's triggering. And I can't ever remember anyone doing that. But that's pretty much, I do my best, full social justice lens. And if people start saying, you know what? Oh, I got one. Jane Elliott's Eye of the Storm video, which I used forever. And then I think I lent my DVD to somebody, so I don't have a copy. I love that. And the original version, a young student uses the N-word. And today I would never use that because it has the N-word in it. I understand there might be a version that's edited out. I just haven't researched in the last 5 or 8 years to find that out. And so if there's something that is just so offensive like that, I wouldn't use it. I don't think I use anything that would have microaggressions in them, as in somebody says or does something. Now, the imagery of just the black-white binary represented and reflected, I have that less offensive. So I would do that afterwards. But if I choose to use something that I know someone says something that's an offensive thing, then I would say. So I love this video because it does X. It shows how people can engage and respond to microaggressions. And unknowingly, in the video, I think there are a couple microaggressions as well that the people that made the video didn't realize were in there. Yeah. And since videos, nothing's perfect, I still want to use it, but here's my challenge. See what you see. So really watch for the skills and then see if there's anything that you're like, I felt uncomfortable, or we need to debrief that, and just see what you find. So take some notes. Yeah. So I'd let them know that I saw some, there might be others I missed. So I challenge them to look as well as to get the content that I'm trying to get. I would do that.
Yeah.
That's one way to do it. Again, you needs assessment. You can say, there's a video I like using that really helps people get microaggressions, but it has 2 curse words in it. Mm-hmm. What's your culture and climate? Right. When you see me live, I often will curse. I try not to cross the F line, though if my gut says I can and just slips out, I usually apologize. But I do find that I do not have I have religious upbringing in a Protestant church, but I don't have a Christian grounding. And I do find some folks with more strong, I don't know if that's the right word, but it's often been folks who have a strong Christian way of living in the world that have felt ruffled when I've used curse words. So I would just ask that question. When I curse, 2 or 3 people say, oh, we curse all the time. And that still doesn't mean that in that culture and climate, some folks are feeling that that is not the climate they want to have in the work environment. So I appreciate your questions.